Yeah, it's very interesting. There are two subjects that I really wanted to dive into this year. Is I'm fascinated with the UFO UAP genre,
Right.
and I want to expose as much as possible the stuff about human trafficking and
Right.
everything that goes into it. We've already started that, and to see these two arenas start to intertwine is, I mean, it's very alarming.
It tells you how much money is being spent. And it tells you that there's companies here that the government doesn't know about that are participating in this.
Yeah.
And it's not even, something that happens in the United States. It may, it definitely does. But to see it in operation, because think about it, it's perfect cover. Because let's say if you're hiking somewhere out here and you see that unfold and you try to call the police, you try to call, federal, state, local agencies, or even the military for that matter, try to report this, are they going to take you serious?
No.
They wouldn't.
I mean,
And-
it's becoming more and more common
Yes.
as time goes on. But yeah, it's what sucks about this is we're in this time period where everybody knows. Not everybody, but it seems everybody that I know knows that the media is false.
Yeah.
It's fake. They don't report everything. They lie.
No, they
cheat,
don't.
But at the same time, a lot of people won't put any validation or trust in anything that hasn't been covered by
Right.
mainstream media. So we're in like this time period where there's a transition happening.
There is, and it's thanks to people like you. And I'm glad that there's people with me doing this too, that, it's easy for people to sit there and try to judge what they would have done in these situations. And the bottom line is we have gotten a point in our life, and I don't mean us specifically, but I mean the rest of the world, where they get so disturbed with things, but they don't do anything about it. They want other people to do it. Oh, I'm unhappy with the situation. Well, fucking change it or help change it.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the word out there. We're trying to get the government, at least the right parts of the government, to do something about this. And, among other things that you see with corruption, for example, you talk about the media. Like I was a security, at least for my private security firm for the America's Frontline Doctors in Washington, D.C. And they came to talk to President Trump about COVID not being as serious as what the media is trying to say it is. They said that vaccinations are not something required to beat this. They were talking about natural immunity. They were talking about all the things that we already knew. Well, people were getting silenced for it. And I'm seeing these doctors, especially Dr. Simone Gold, so they try to wrap her up because she was part of the January 6th thing. But she's actually a really nice lady. But she's explaining to us how everything worked because they took us out to dinner, to try to thank us. And it was very cool to network with these people. And then all of a sudden you go after the event and you start seeing the news articles pop up about these people. And it's completely defamation. It's completely stuff that's not even related, and it's one of those things that it sucks to see because their lives were ultimately ruined for speaking out about the truth. But here's the thing. There comes great risk to stuff. My life doesn't get lavish because of what I'm doing today and what I've been doing. It becomes hell. I've had numerous encounters with fucking helicopters hovering over my house. They were hovering over my dad's house. They get so low where they rattle the walls. Scare the shit out of the animals that we've got. His dogs were going fucking crazy at that point. And he was concerned because he was home and he was like, I've never heard anything like that. So, I've taken videos of this too, but seeing Blackhawks, seeing regular black helicopters that don't even have insignias on them, nothing. And they're just sitting there. But the thing about it that is at least noticeable about this, and it's just kind of there's a hysterical factor to this, how much money they're fucking spending on this to happen, to try to either intimidate me or anybody else for that matter. There's some elected officials and even some government officials I know that are having the same thing happen to them because they've told me about it personally through our encrypted source of what we talk about. So they instructed me that anytime that something like this happens that I could record it, take pictures, because they'll see the timestamps of everything taken and let them know the time and they'll investigate it. Because they can have access to the FAA systems and among other systems that can actually relay where these people are going. They can listen into their comms, because they have to guide through the FAA air traffic, where they're going. I live by the airport in Denver. And the airspace there is restricted because they have airplanes that are flying, every directions to try to, passenger airliners or whatnot. So it's not a normal flight path for helicopters. That's what stuck out to me. They were doing it at my place of business where they'd fly over, they'd stop, and then, they would bank off. My dad's house, they get low, enough. It's just, it doesn't become glamorous by speaking about this.
And you have people maybe that you've met through when you testified in front of the Intelligence Committee that are helping you, that are telling you, hey, record this shit, timestamp it, let us know any information you can possibly get. Report it.
Because they said they'll look into it because they know, and several of them are having to deal with this personally.
Is this happening to any of the other whistleblowers that you know?
I know it happens to Dr. Greer all the time.
Okay.
Other whistleblowers, I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's not something that, maybe they do notice, because you're hyper vigilant with what's going on. Because, with what we're doing, it's putting us in the spotlight, but it's also putting the fucking crosshairs onto us. And the only thing I'm thankful is coming public with this information, at least if something does happen. And I'm not going to rule that out. But if anything does happen and it kind of proves what we're talking about to be true. And the reason being is because they would not be going through these measures to try to intimidate for no reason.
Yeah.
We're keeping people up at night because of what we're talking about, and that needs to happen.
Yeah.
So, and I even told these government officials when I had my meetings, I'm like, first and foremost, you guys need to understand something. I am in the right state of mind to do this. I don't feel like harming myself. I don't feel like, because everybody makes the joke that Epstein didn't kill himself. No way in shape or form related to that, right? And so same goes here. Like I have no means to harm myself. So if anything happens, it's not from me.
Well, thanks for saying that.
Well, that needs to be on record, and people need to understand that, because if something does, it's not because I turned a gun on myself or anything like this. Specifically, I'm going to talk about something. El Toro, Marine Corps Air Station El Toro. I'm sure you're familiar with that. It was out in California. There was a colonel there that didn't even know that this was going on his base. But they were flying flights in that had drugs on them. And they were unloading it on his base, and he found out about it, so he went to question them. 2 days later, they find him dead.
Really?
Yep.
Is this on record anywhere?
Yes, it is. You can Google this information. Put Marine Corps Colonel suicide, El Toro. Okay. You can pull this out. Anybody of these viewers can do that too. The family thought it was very alarming because the circumstances. So they did a second opinion for an autopsy. And they said that there was extreme blunt force trauma to his head, which killed him. But then they had gunshot wounds. So there's a shotgun that were supposed to stage to look like a suicide. And so I'm glad that the family actually got the second opinion to say, no, it was blunt force trauma to the back of the head is what killed him, and they tried to make it look like a suicide. And this is a colonel, and the thing that sucks about this is the Marine Corps itself actually tried to use this as a tool to say, you know what, suicide awareness is such a big thing, and it happens with every rank, and they were using this guy for this purpose. But then all of a sudden you start delving into this information and seeing that, the reports that he was making about these illegal flights coming in, and they were unloading drugs. It clearly... These guys, it doesn't matter what rank you are, it doesn't matter what position in government you have, it doesn't matter what you do for a living. If you're going against what they're exposing what they're doing, they're going to get you. So if something does happen, I'm just putting it out there that it's not from my own doing. I don't fucking piss anybody up. Maybe in the business world to a degree, but it's not enough for them to sit there and do something like that. And I'm glad that I have a private security firm where I've got some guys who look out for my best interests and they know what I'm doing. So they've got my back, realistically speaking. And, and that's the thing, too, is any other whistleblowers who, because I urge other people to come out. If they're needing protection on the way, I'll help with that. I'll orchestrate. But, two, the other thing is, too, coming out in the fashion that we did was the best because now the right people in the government know. So it's almost like having a pit bull that's one to rip you to fucking shreds, but you have this fence that's between you and this pit bull. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the government's going to be that fence, and along with the spotlight that this put me in.
Yeah.
Because it's unsettling to sit there and see these helicopters, man. It's just, it's hysterical. You sit there and wave at them, but it's like, keep wasting your fucking money.